I never imagined my own daughter-in-law would try to kill me at my Christmas party, but that's exactly what happened. My name's Doris. I'm 67 years old. And that night, I saw, with my own two eyes, her slipping something into my wine glass. You know what hurt the most? My son, my only boy, was standing right by her side the whole time, and I could tell he'd changed since he married that woman. She wanted my inheritance, wanted everything my late husband left for me, and I was all alone in this. Nobody would have believed me if I'd told them, so I did the only thing I could do in that moment. I switched the glasses. The poisoned glass that was meant for me ended up in her hands, and when she drank her own poison, well, that's when everything changed. What happened after that, y'all aren't gonna believe. This is my story, and I need to tell somebody, 'cause carrying this alone is eating me up inside. I'm gonna start from the beginning, 'cause if I don't tell this right, nobody's gonna understand how serious what happened that Christmas night really was. My name's Doris Hampton. I'm 67 years old, been a widow for 8 months, and I live in Savannah, Georgia. Robert died of a heart attack in April, left me close to $4 million, not counting the house and business. I know that's a lot of money, and it was exactly because of that that I almost died that night. It was December 24th, my first Christmas without Robert, and my heart was heavy just thinking about it. But I'm the type who doesn't like to sit around feeling sorry for herself, you know? So I threw the party anyway. Called my 3 kids, Marcus, 42, married to Melissa for 8 years, Vanessa, 39, from Chicago with her 2 boys, and Jerome, 35, married to Patricia. Also invited cousins, neighbors, church friends, about 30 people total. I wanted the house full, wanted noise, laughter, life. The party started around 6. I'd spent the whole day cooking. Turkey, ham, mac and cheese, collard greens, sweet potatoes, cornbread, desserts too. Pecan pie, sweet potato pie, chocolate cake. The table was loaded, beautiful. I'd gotten all dressed up. Dark green dress, pearl necklace Robert gave me. I wanted to look good, wanted people to see I was doing okay, but inside I was fragile. Way more fragile than I was letting on. Guests started arriving. Vanessa got there early, helped me finish setting up. The house filled up, getting loud, lively, Christmas music playing, people laughing, kids running around. It was exactly what I needed. But then Marcus showed up with Melissa, and soon as I saw her face, I knew something was wrong. She was tense, looking at everything with that calculating way she has, you know? Like she was evaluating, measuring, planning. Melissa's always been like that. Beautiful, light-skinned, hair always perfectly straightened, designer clothes, but cold, real cold. She never called me Mom, always Doris, with that distant tone. Marcos had changed since he married her. He used to be sweet, thoughtful, always called his mama. But after the wedding, he started cooling off, pulling away. Melissa had a way of turning him against me with comments like, "Your mother's too controlling." I heard those things when they thought I wasn't paying attention. It hurt so much, but I tried not to show it. The party was in full swing when I walked into the kitchen to grab napkins and I saw it. At the bar, I saw Melissa doing something that made my blood run cold. She had my glass in her hand, the one with the gold rim that Robert gave me, that I always use at parties. And I saw, clear as day, her taking a small vial out of her purse and pouring something into my glass. A clear liquid, just a few drops. Then she stirred it with her finger and put the glass back. My heart started racing. My hands started shaking. Did I really see that? But no, I'd seen it all right. That woman had poisoned my glass. My daughter-in-law had tried to kill me right there in my own house on Christmas night. For a moment, I thought about screaming, exposing her. But then I thought, what if nobody believes me? What if Marcus takes her side? I'd look like a crazy old lady. So I decided to be smart. I walked out slowly and went to the living room like nothing had happened. But my eyes never left Melissa, and her eyes never left me. She was watching me, waiting for me to drink. That's when I knew for absolute certain. She wanted to see me dead. I walked up to the bar, chatting with Mrs. Chen, my neighbor. I picked up my glass and pretended I was gonna drink. I saw Melissa lean forward, eyes shining. But when she looked away for a second, I acted fast. I switched my poisoned glass with hers, another wine glass, just like mine, but without the gold rim. Quick, quiet, smooth. My heart was beating so hard, but I kept my cool. And when Melissa looked again and saw me holding a wine glass, she relaxed. She thought I'd drunk the poison. I saw a little smile form. Satisfaction, mission accomplished. That made me want to throw up. The party went on. I didn't drink, just poured the wine into a plant pot when nobody was looking. 20 minutes went by. Melissa started getting restless, looking at me, looking at her watch. Why was I still standing? But then something unexpected happened. Melissa picked up her glass, the clean one I'd switched. She took a big sip. Nothing happened, of course. But I saw confusion on her face. Then she looked at the bar where my poisoned glass still sat in the corner. And that's when she understood. She understood I'd switched the glasses. Her face went pale. But about 50 minutes later, she started getting sick. Except it didn't make sense. She drank from the glass without poison. She went pale, ran to the bathroom. Marcos went after her. The party stopped. Everybody got worried. Marcos came back panicking. "Mom, we need to call an ambulance. Melissa's real sick." I called 911 right away. The ambulance got there fast. When they put Melissa on the stretcher, she looked at me. And in that look was everything. Fear, hatred, desperation. She knew that I knew, but if she told the truth, she'd go to jail. So she had to stay quiet. Marcos left with her. After everyone left and I was alone, I fell apart. I sat on the couch and cried. My daughter-in-law had tried to kill me, but while I was crying, I looked at the bar and saw my glass, the poisoned one, still untouched. That was my proof. And somehow Melissa had gotten sick anyway. The poison had come back to her. I picked up that glass carefully, put it in a plastic baggie, stored it safe. That was my ammunition. 'Cause one thing I knew, this wasn't over. But now I was prepared at Tita. Sa totoo sextu, the investigation, I didn't sleep that night. At 3 a.m, Marcus called from the hospital. "Mom, Melissa's stable. Doctors said severe food poisoning, but they're running tests." I said I'd visit the next day, but I didn't go. I couldn't face her yet. I needed to think. On the 26th, I finally went. When I walked in, Marcus hugged me tight. Melissa was pale, with IV in her arm. When Marcos stepped out, I leaned close and whispered, "I saw what you did. I saw you putting something in my glass, and I saved that glass. So you're gonna stay real quiet, understand?" Her face went white, but they weren't tears of regret, just frustration at getting caught. The doctors never figured out what made her sick. The toxicology tests showed abnormal substances, but nothing conclusive. Melissa was discharged on the 28th. I stayed home, thinking about my next move. On the 29th, I called my lawyer, Dr. Samuel Morrison. I told him everything. He said I needed to go to the police, but I refused. No proof. Marcus would hate me. So he suggested hiring a private investigator, Raymond Davis, former cop. I called him that day. Raymond came over on December 30th. I told him everything. He said, "This is evidence. I'll get it analyzed. We need to know what poison she used." I authorized everything. That same afternoon, I had security cameras installed everywhere. The house became a fortress. On January 3rd, Marcus and Melissa came for lunch. After Marcus went to the bathroom, Melissa confronted me in the kitchen. "You think you're smart, don't you?" I looked at her. "I have the glass with your poison, and I've got cameras, an investigator, and a lawyer, so think real hard before you make any move." On January 15th, Raymond called. I found out some things. The lab identified oleander poison, lethal, causes symptoms like a heart attack. He also showed me photos of Melissa with a woman named Crystal Johnson, a holistic consultant and with a sketchy history. He'd recorded their conversation discussing solving the problem of the mother-in-law who's in the way. That night I listened to the recording. Melissa's voice. "She's not gonna last much longer anyway. She's 67, alone, depressed. If she dies suddenly, nobody's gonna suspect anything. Then Marcos inherits everything, and we can finally live the life we deserve, without that old woman controlling everything." Controlling old woman. That's how she saw me. I cried. But in the middle of the tears, anger started growing. Cold, determined anger. I wasn't going to let that woman defeat me. On January 20th, I made my decision. I was going to confront Marcus. I called him, asked him to come alone. Those days until Saturday were the longest of my life. Saturday came. When I opened the door, my heart squeezed. He looked so much like Robert. We sat at the kitchen table. I took a deep breath and told him everything about Christmas night, the poison, the investigator, the evidence, the recording. Marcos listened in silence, his face changing, confusion, disbelief, anger. "Mom, are you telling me Melissa tried to kill you?" I showed him the folder with all the proof. His hands started shaking as he read. "My God, this is real." "I need to talk to her," he said finally. "I need to hear it from her." We went together that afternoon. When Melissa saw me with Marcus, she knew something was wrong. Marcus threw the folder on the table. "Open that and explain it to me." Her face lost all color. Marcos stepped forward. "You tried to kill my mother. Why?" Melissa started crying, not regret, just getting caught. "You don't understand. She has everything, Marcus. Millions. And here we are, waiting for her to die so we can finally have what's rightfully ours." Marcus stepped back, stunned. "What's rightfully ours? That money's not ours, Melissa. And you were hoping she'd die." I couldn't take it. "You're 38 years old, you're young, healthy, and you wanted to kill me 'cause you couldn't wait." She looked at me with pure hatred. "You never liked me. You made my life hell." Marcus exploded. "Enough. This is over. I want you out. I'm filing for divorce. If you contest it, I'm going to the police and you're going to jail." That night, Marcus came to my house and cried in my arms. In the following days, he filed for divorce. The judge denied Melissa any alimony or assets and ordered the case forwarded for criminal investigation. That's when Melissa disappeared, just vanished. The police issued a warrant, but she wasn't found. She was a fugitive. Marcus was devastated for weeks. He went to therapy, started recovering, and the family started healing. I learned that money brings out the worst in people, that I'm stronger than I thought, that real family stays by your side when everything falls apart. That Christmas night, Melissa thought she was winning, but she lost everything. And I'm still here, alive, strong, surrounded by people who really love me. And you know what? I'm not scared anymore. Because I already went through the worst and survived. And if I survived that, I can survive anything. The following months were the hardest of my life. Marcus kept living with me for almost 2 months. He'd wake up in the middle of the night, sweating, having nightmares. He'd dream that I died, that he'd gotten there too late. I'd go into his room on those nights, sit on the edge of the bed and say, "I'm here, son. We're safe now." But the truth is, I wasn't sleeping right either. I had my own nightmares too. Vanessa came to visit me every week. She'd been shocked when Marcus told her everything. At first, she didn't want to believe it, said it was too crazy. But when she saw the proof, when she heard the recording of Melissa talking that cruel way about me, she was furious. "How did she have the nerve, Mom? How did she do this to you, to our family?" She'd cry, hugging me, and I'd comfort her even though I was the victim. It's funny how we always end up being strong for our kids, even when we're falling apart inside. Jerome reacted different. He got real quiet. Until one day he showed up and said, "Mom, I feel guilty. I knew something was wrong with Melissa, always thought she was strange, fake, but I never said anything." I stopped him right there. "No, son, you're not guilty of anything. Nobody would have imagined she was capable of this." The divorce was finalized in April. Marcus kept everything. Melissa was left with nothing, but she was still on the run. The police couldn't find her. In May, I started therapy. Dr. Morrison suggested it. "Doris, you went through trauma. Someone tried to take your life. You need to process this with a professional." At first, I resisted. I'm from the generation that doesn't really believe in this therapy stuff, you know? But I ended up giving in. And it was one of the best decisions I made. Dr. Williams, a black woman in her 50s, helped me understand what I was feeling. She asked me hard questions. "Doris, do you feel guilty about something?" And that's when I broke down, started crying, and admitted that, yes, guilty for destroying Marcus's marriage, guilty for not realizing who Melissa was before. Dr. Williams helped me see that none of this was my fault, that Melissa made her own choices, that the consequences were her responsibility, that I had a right to be alive, to defend myself. It was freeing to hear that, little by little, I started healing. Not completely. These things leave permanent scars, but enough for me to start living again. In June, Marcus finally moved back to his own apartment. He'd sold the house he'd shared with Melissa, said he couldn't stand to set foot in that place anymore. He bought a smaller apartment, more modern, a fresh start. I helped him decorate. It was good to see my son regaining his independence, That month, I got a letter from Melissa. No return address. She said she was sorry, not for what she tried to do, but for hurting Marcus. She talked about growing up poor, about the anger she felt when Robert died and I inherited everything. She tried to justify herself, make me feel compassion, but I didn't feel anything, absolutely nothing. Lots of people go through hard times and don't become murderers because of it. She made a choice, and now she had to live with the consequences. I showed the letter to Raymond. He said the postmark was from Atlanta, but that she probably wasn't there anymore. I kept the letter. I don't know why. Maybe as a reminder that evil exists, and sometimes it comes disguised as a pretty, smiling daughter-in-law. Life slowly went back to normal. I started going out more, going to church, meeting up with my friends. I still had hard days, days when anxiety would hit out of nowhere. But the good days started being more frequent than the bad ones, and that was already a victory. July came bringing suffocating heat to Savannah, but it also brought good changes. Marcus started dating again. A young woman he met at work, an engineer like him, named Alicia. When he told me, I felt a tightness in my chest. Not from jealousy. I was never one of those possessive mothers-in-law. It was fear. Fear that he'd choose wrong again. Fear that another woman would come into his life with hidden agendas. But when I met Alicia, something inside me relaxed. She was different from Melissa in every way. Simple, genuine, with a smile that reached her eyes. She came to dinner at my house on a Friday, brought flowers, yellow daisies, which are my favorites, and called me Mrs. Hampton with a respect that seemed sincere. We talked about everything, about her family, about work, about plans for the future, and not once did she ask about money, about inheritance, about assets. She just wanted to get to know the mother of the man she was starting to like. After they left, I called Vanessa and said, "This one's different. This one's good people." Vanessa laughed on the other end of the line. "Mom, you barely met the girl and you're already approving after what happened with Melissa." I understood her concern. That's exactly why, honey. I learned to read people better now. And this girl has something Melissa never had, kindness in her eyes. But I also got more cautious. I hired Raymond to do a discreet background check on Alicia. I know it sounds like paranoia, but after almost being murdered by my daughter-in-law, I figured it was necessary precaution. Raymond came back 2 weeks later with the report. Alicia was exactly who she said she was. No suspicious debts, no problematic relationships in the past, nothing that raised any red flags. I breathed a sigh of relief. August was the month I decided to make changes in my own life. Couldn't keep living in fear anymore, locked up at home, jumping at every noise. Dr. Williams had told me in a session, "Doris, you survived. Now you need to really live, not just exist." Those words kept hammering in my head. So I did something I never imagined I'd do. I signed up for a widows group at church. There were 6 women. They'd all lost their husbands in the last 2 years. We'd meet every Tuesday afternoon, drink tea, talk, vent. At first I didn't tell them about Melissa, just said I was recently widowed and trying to adjust. But over time, as trust grew, I ended up telling them, and you know what happened. Nobody judged me. Nobody said I was crazy or exaggerating. They hugged me, supported me, some even cried with me. One of them, Dorothy, a 72-year-old lady who'd lost her husband to cancer, told me something I'll never forget. Doris, what you went through was terrible. But look at you, you're here, standing, strong, taking care of your family. You're a warrior. I cried so much that day, cried from relief, from gratitude, from finally feeling understood. It was also in August that the police finally got a lead on Melissa. A detective called me saying she'd been spotted in New Orleans, working at a bar under a fake name. They sent a team there, but by the time they arrived, she'd disappeared again, always one step ahead. September brought Marcus's birthday. He turned 43. We organized a barbecue at my house, me, Vanessa, with the boys, Jerome and Patricia, and Alicia. It was the first family party since that fateful Christmas. I was nervous in the days before, scared that the bad memories would ruin everything. But they didn't. It was a beautiful day, full of laughter, love, real family. Marcus blew out the candles on the cake I'd made, chocolate cake, his favorite since he was little. And when he hugged me, thanking me for the party, I felt like we'd turned a page, hadn't forgotten what happened, never would. But we were moving forward, and that's what mattered. It was that day, too, that Marcus asked to talk to me privately. We went to the garden, sat on that wooden bench Robert had made years ago. "Mom, I want to thank you," he said, holding my hand, "for saving me, for being brave that night. If you hadn't seen what Melissa did, if you hadn't switched the glasses, I don't know what would have happened." I squeezed his hand. "You're my son. I'll always protect you, no matter what." He took a deep breath before continuing. "Neom, and I want to apologize to you for not believing you right away when you told me, for doubting, even if it was just for a few minutes." I felt tears in my eyes. "Son, you were in shock. It's understandable. What matters is that you believed in the end, and that we're here, together." October came with the leaves starting to change color. I started taking morning walks with Dorothy. We'd walk through the park, talk about life, about the husbands we'd lost, about fears and hopes. She became a real friend, someone I could trust, and that was healing in a way I didn't expect. It was also in October that I made an important decision. I was going to change my will, not because of Melissa. She'd never get anything of mine anyway, but because I wanted to make sure that if something happened to me, my kids and grandkids would be protected. I called Dr. Morrison, and we redid everything. I put in specific clauses, protections, a structure that would guarantee the money would be used to take care of the family, for the grandkids, education, for charity. Robert would be proud. November came bringing Thanksgiving, and for the first time in months, I was genuinely excited for a family party. We did it at my house again, the whole family, including Alicia. I cooked all day, made a feast. And when we sat down for dinner and Marcus asked everyone to say one thing they were grateful for, I looked around that table and felt my heart overflow. "I'm grateful to be alive," I said, my voice breaking a little. "I'm grateful to have this wonderful family, and I'm grateful to have learned that I'm stronger than I thought." Everybody at the table knew what I was talking about, and everybody had tears in their eyes. That night, after everybody left, I stayed alone in the kitchen washing dishes. I looked out the window at the dark sky full of stars, and for the first time since that terrible Christmas, I felt at peace, really at peace. The storm had passed, the scars were still there, always would be, but I'd survived, and more than that, I'd won. December came way too fast. A full year had passed since that terrible Christmas night. I woke up on the first day of the month with a tight knot in my chest, knowing I'd have to face the memories, relive everything all over again as the date got closer. Dr. Williams had prepared me for this in our sessions. She said, trauma anniversaries hit hard, that the body remembers even when the mind tries to forget. But I didn't want to spend Christmas scared. I didn't want to give Melissa that kind of power over me, even with her gone and on the run. So I made a decision. We were doing Christmas again right here at my house, just like always. It was my way of taking back what she had tried to steal from me. When I told my kids, they were worried. "Mom, are you sure?" Marcus asked. "Isn't this going to be too much for you?" I held his hand. "Yeah, it will be heavy. But I need to do this. I need to prove to myself that she didn't win, that she didn't destroy our family or our traditions." Vanessa wrapped me in a tight hug. "Then we'll be there with you, all of us." And that's exactly what happened. In the days leading up to Christmas, my kids came over to help decorate the house. We put up the tree, the lights, the ornaments. Jerome brought out that nativity set we'd used since he was little. Patricia made wreaths. The grandkids helped hang the stockings by the fireplace. Little by little, the house became beautiful again, full of life, full of love. But on the 24th, when I woke up, the anxiety hit hard. I remembered every single detail from the year before. The smell of the food, people arriving, Melissa slipping the poison into my glass. My hands were shaking as I made breakfast. I almost called everyone and canceled everything. Almost. That's when the phone rang. It was the police detective. "Mrs. Hampton, I have news. We caught Melissa." My heart stopped. "What? Where?" He explained she'd been arrested in Houston, Texas during a routine traffic stop. She was using fake documents, but her fingerprints matched the system. She was being transferred to Savannah that same day, arriving that night, and her custody hearing would be on the 26th. I hung up and just stood there in the kitchen, trying to process it all. After almost a year on the run, she'd been caught. And on Christmas Eve, exactly 1 year later, it felt like fate, like the universe had lined everything up just to close this chapter. I called Marcus and told him. He stayed quiet for a long moment. "How are you feeling, Mom?" I thought before answering. Relieved, scared, but mostly relieved. She can't hurt anyone anymore. We agreed not to let this ruin our Christmas. The celebration was happening no matter what. And it did. People started arriving around 6 that evening. This time it was a smaller group, just family, about 15 people. I made the same food, used the same decorations, but everything felt different. Lighter, more real. That fake tension was gone. Melissa's forced smile was no longer poisoning the room. When we sat down for dinner, Marcus asked to make a toast. He raised his wine glass, a regular glass, no gold rim, no poison, and said, "I want to toast the strongest woman I know. My mother, last year, on this very night, she saved her own life and exposed a truth no one wanted to see. Mom, you're my hero." I cried. Everyone cried. We toasted, hugged, cried together. Dinner was beautiful. We ate, talked, laughed. The grandkids played and opened gifts. Alicia, who was basically family by then, helped serve dessert. And when midnight came and we exchanged presents, I looked around and saw what really mattered. Real family, real love, real life. On the 26th, I went to court. I didn't have to, but I wanted to. I wanted to look her in the eyes, see her in handcuffs, get that sense of closure. Marcus came with me. Along with Vanessa and Jerome, we sat in the back of the courtroom and waited. When they brought Melissa in, I barely recognized her. Her hair was messy, no longer perfectly straightened. Her face was bare, dark circles under her eyes. She'd lost weight, looked 10 years older. The handcuffs shined around her wrists. When she walked in, her eyes scanned the room and landed on me. We locked eyes for a few seconds. I didn't look away. And for the first time, I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Defeat. Total, absolute defeat. The judge read the charges: attempted murder, use of a toxic substance with lethal intent, fleeing justice. Melissa's public defender asked for bail, but the prosecution objected, presenting all the evidence: the poisoned glass, the recordings, the testimonies, everything. Bail was denied. Melissa would remain in custody until trial, scheduled for March. When the hearing ended and they took her away, she looked at Marcus one last time. I saw tears in her eyes, but they weren't tears of regret. They were tears of self-pity. She felt sorry for herself, not for the woman she tried to kill. And in that moment, I knew with absolute certainty that she had never loved me, never loved my son, never loved anyone but herself. We left the courthouse in silence. Outside, the sun was bright. One of those beautiful southern winter days. Marcus hugged me. "It's over, Mom. It's finally over." I took a deep breath, feeling the cool air fill my lungs. "Yeah, son, it's over." The months after that flew by. The trial happened in March, just as planned. I testified, told everything I'd seen that Christmas night. Marcus testified about her behavior changes, the strange conversations. Raymond presented all the evidence he'd collected. Crystal Johnson had also been arrested, and she took a plea deal, testified against Melissa in exchange for a reduced sentence. The jury didn't take long. 4 hours of deliberation. Guilty on all charges. The judge sentenced Melissa to 15 years in prison. When the sentence was read, she collapsed, crying, screaming that it was unfair, but justice had been done. Finally. Now, as I write this, sitting on my porch on a sunny afternoon in May, I think about everything that's happened. It's been a year and a half since that night. Melissa is in prison serving her sentence. Marcus proposed to Alicia last month. She said yes, of course. The wedding will be in July. A small garden ceremony right here at my house. Vanessa got promoted at work. Jerome and Patricia are expecting their first child. Life moved on. I'm still in therapy. I still have hard days. I still jump sometimes when someone comes up behind me. The scars didn't disappear, but I learned how to live with them. I learned that trauma doesn't define us. What defines us is how we deal with it, how we get back up after the fall. I also learned that family is everything, that money attracts the wrong people, but love attracts the right ones. That age isn't weakness. I'm 68 now, and I'm stronger than ever. I learned to trust my instinct, because when something feels wrong, it usually is. And I learned that surviving isn't enough. We have to really live, enjoy each day, love deeply, laugh out loud. That Christmas night, when Melissa put poison in my glass, she thought she was winning. She thought she'd get rid of the old mother-in-law and live rich and happy. But she lost everything. And I, the old woman she despised, I gained everything. More time with my kids and grandkids. A new bond with Alicia. strength I didn't know I had, a second chance at life. And you know what? I'm not afraid anymore. I'm not afraid of getting older. I'm not afraid of being alone. I'm not afraid of tomorrow because I faced the worst and I survived. And if I survive that, I can survive anything. So to anyone reading this, to anyone who's been through or is going through something similar, you're stronger than you think. Betrayal hurts. Loneliness is scary. Fear can paralyze you. But you can do this. Stay standing. Keep fighting. Keep living. Because life, even with all its pain and disappointments, is still worth it. I'm living proof of that. And next Christmas, I'm throwing the biggest party this house has ever seen. I'll fill it with people, food, love. I'll toast to life, to family, to victory, because I won, we won. And that poisoned glass? It was kept as evidence during the trial, but they eventually returned it to me. I didn't throw it away. I stored it in a box up in the attic along with the letter Melissa sent me. Not as a trophy, but as a reminder. A reminder that evil exists, but good always wins in the end. Always.